Hi everyone, it's Friday night and we're chatting about Celtic. Not a whole lot happening to do with Celtic at the moment, but I'm sure we'll be able to fill the next half an hour or so. We've got Asim back in the channel. Asim, making your debut on not a reaction show, so it's a bit calmer hopefully.
Yeah, no, definitely looking forward to it. Like you say, international break, just trying to count down the days until the next one. 6 days has it been since Ross County? So I had
I'm
the
still
pleasure of
sunburnt.
I know. Well, I had the pleasure of bumping into you after the game. I think the biggest take home from that was just how tall you are. I've seen a
Don't
few,
say that. Do you know,
but
people still come up to me, and the first thing they say is, "Oh God, you're really tall." I mean, I posted a photo of Anthony Ralston, who's no slouch,
uh,
the other day, and I'm towering over him. So hopefully that puts it to bed once and for all. But no, it was lovely to meet you, and it was a great day out, but. Oh, it's just a drag. I know I say it a lot in the channel, and people have a bit of a go at me, people who like their international football, but I'm just struggling like mad. There's just nothing really happening with Celtic at the moment, news wise, really. And I just want the next week to fly in so we can get right back into it because it feels like we're on the cusp of something. Thanks everyone who's joined us tonight. There's over 100 of you on already. I don't know why you're joining us on your Friday night. You obviously don't have good plans if you want to watch us two chatting about nothing, basically. But as I say, we'll do our best to make the next half an hour or so worthwhile. I really want to get into how we're feeling, Asim. How are we feeling right now? Because I was chatting to Anthony Ralston earlier in the week, as I say, and the message coming out from him is that Celtic are calm. The team are in a good place and we're calm about what's to come. Meanwhile, I think every supporter is kind of tearing their hair out at the prospect of us actually winning this league. How are you feeling?
I'm surprisingly quite calm as well. I think, like with international breaks, I think they never come at the right time. Either it's after a bad result and you're left stewing for 2 weeks, or in this case, you're just itching to go again. We're in such a
Yeah.
good place. And I think that's why I feel pretty calm. I just think we're in such a good place just now. And I almost feel quite relaxed and quite confident, which those that know me quite well, I'm probably more in the kind of middle ground where I'm quite like a realist, and whereas my dad, he's kind of normally the pessimist, and I've got my nephew who's the other opposite. He's always optimistic. We're going to do it. We're going to do it, and I'm quite confident, and I think that just comes from the position we're in just now. I feel like going into Ibrox, I feel very relaxed, and I think part of that is because I feel like it's a free hit almost for us. I think we're one game away from winning the league. If we win that game, if we win at Ibrox, I think we'll win the league. I know that might
There's your
sound,
headline right there, everyone. One game away from winning the league. I take your point.
I know that sounds, sensationalist or like a big statement, but that's the way I look at it. I think if we go
Yeah.
into that game and get the 3 points there, I just can't see us dropping points in three of the next 6 games, which is what we'd need to do. I think we need to lose twice and draw another. So I'm going into that game quite relaxed, but knowing that the pressure's all on them. And I think, given the kind of form we're in and the feel good factor, I'm confident that we can actually get a result over there. I don't know how
And
you feel.
well, I'm not quite as confident as that. The Ibrox game for me is the big one. It's the big one because it's the next one, but it's also because it's away from home. I back Celtic to get the better of them at Celtic Park in the other league game. Forget the cup game. The cup
Yeah,
games, that'll take care of itself. In terms of the league, I back us at Celtic Park because we saw how it went last time. I know it's sometimes quite folly to look at that and just to assume that the same would happen again, but I just think their players really struggle in that kind of atmosphere. So I back us to win that game if we need to win it. The game that worries me, if I'm honest, is Ibrox. Next
yeah,
weekend. I just think I look at the way they've played at home in Europe, and I think it will be a European type game. We'll
yeah,
come and attack them like Dortmund did, like Red Star Belgrade did, and I think that might suit them to an extent because I think they have players who play well into space, and obviously the atmosphere. I know we're going to have
yeah,
some fans there, which is better than last time, but I think the atmosphere is going to be a really difficult thing for this Celtic team to deal with. 99% of that stadium is going to be Rangers fans. So that's the game that just
yeah.
concerns me. That's the game I look at, and if this Celtic team can go to Ibrox and I know it's almost a kind of defeatist thing to say if we can avoid defeat.
Yeah.
I just think we're in a brilliant place. If we win, I agree. I think it's very difficult for them to come back from that. If it's a draw, it's a great result, and I think we move on, and we're definitely in pole position at that stage if we're not already. But that's the big one for me, and I think it's going to be a really tough match. I genuinely do. I think Rangers are a good side. I think we're a better side, and I think we showed that at the start of February. But these games can be decided on the thinnest of margins, a referee decision,
Yeah,
a bad mistake from a defender, a bit of brilliance from an attacker. And I think that's the thing I worry about, just those kind of variables, because it's so close at the top.
yeah. No, I do agree with you. I think if you look at the games since the reduced allocations as well, it's pretty much gone with the home side. I know there's been a couple. I think we won there once, and they've
Once
won it
out of
like every,
seven, we've won
yeah,
at
won the last
Ibrox.
seven. And
Yeah.
I don't think we played well in nearly any of them. I think we've had a half maybe where we did all right, but we struggled at Ibrox in recent times. And I do agree with you. I think they'll come out and play the way they do in Europe. And I think given the way the last game went, I don't think we can use that as a gauge. I think it'll be a completely different game from the one at Parkhead. I think they'll come out gung ho. I think they'll come and really go for us and use the crowd and use the atmosphere and try and get that kind of early advantage. And I think the key for us is to try and just ride that early storm out. And I think if
Mm.
we can get our play our way into the game, their fans will get frustrated. They know it's a must win, and I think there's so much pressure on them. Like you said, I think if we can come out of there even with a draw, we're in pole position, and it's really in our hands. Yeah, the benefit is, like we said, we can lose as well, and it's not the end of the world. But obviously, we don't
Yeah.
even want to contemplate
Try,
that.
try, try telling that to me next Sunday when I'm doing the reaction if
Oh
you lose the game,
no,
because my face is going to be tripping me.
yeah. I think for me, I think we're in with a real, but it's the first massive test for this group of players. Like I think obviously the game at Ibrox early in the season that we lost, a completely different team from the one
Hmm.
that will be playing next Sunday. And we've come through some difficult games. We've won obviously at Tynecastle away, Aberdeen away. We've had challenging moments, but this is a whole different ball game, I think, and it'll be interesting just to see how we how we play, even how we perform, regardless of the result. I'd like to see a performance here that shows how far the team have grown, that we can go to Ibrox and like take the game to them and play our own football. Um, yeah, I'm expecting them to come at us, but uh, yeah, I've got a good feeling about it.
And when you look at the way we've played in the European games away from home, we had an incredible record of scoring the first goal in these
Yeah,
matches. Obviously, didn't happen in either game in the Conference League, but in terms of the Europa League and the Champions League, it basically happened, I think, in every away game apart from Leverkusen, and a lot of the goals were early on. So
yeah,
I think it's Celtic are going to come out and attack Rangers right from the start as well. I mean, I agree they'll come at us. I think with the atmosphere. But I think it's going to be a real end-to-end start to the game because we're going to look to hit them early as well. And if we can get an early goal, it just changes that atmosphere completely. In terms of, Kyogo as being a talking point, it sounds like Celtic are, you know, gearing him up to play a big part in the rest of the season. I personally felt that it would be a bonus to see Kyogo make an impact for the rest of the
yeah,
season. Just in my head, I'd kind of written it off. I thought if we see him, for a couple of games at the end of the season and he scores a big goal, brilliant. But in terms of actually seeing him for a run of games, I didn't really see it coming. But we've got 7 games in the league left, at least one more in the cup as well, and it seems like Kyogo might have a big part to play at the end of the season, and I think it's absolutely massive for the team. But I don't think even if he's fully fit that I would put him in from the start on Sunday. What do you think about that?
yeah. He's been out since I think what was it, the end of December, so we're looking at 3 months on. He's not kicked a ball. I think even if he was on the bench, the kind of psychological lift that might give,
Yeah.
just to have him there as an option if we need to bring him on. But I think given how Giakoumakis is playing, he starts for me. And the fact that Kyogo, like you said, he's his first game back, I think we can bed him in. After that, we've got St Johnstone at home, and then we've got the cup game. So I think there's
Hmm.
plenty of time for him to play a massive factor, and it's just came at the perfect time for this run in that if we can get a player of his quality to add to what we're already doing and looking so dangerous in the forward areas, I think it bodes well. But I agree with you. I wouldn't start him on Sunday. And I don't think he will. No, next Sunday. I don't think he will. But yeah, if he's on the bench, brilliant. I don't think he'd even probably make the squad, but it would be a nice surprise if he is.
There's no need to rush him back anymore. When you
Never.
look at I wrote a thing earlier on that when he last played for us, he came off after 15 minutes on Boxing Day and he was
Yeah,
replaced by Joey Dawson, who at that
yeah,
stage was Celtic's second choice striker. You now look at Joey Dawson and I think he's fifth or sixth choice
yeah,
striker. That's the change there's been, in the Celtic squad and especially in the attacking area since Kyogo's been away. He's missed 3 months, Kyogo, and the squad he's coming back to is massive. Yakimakis has come in, and would we have seen this Yakimakis if Kyogo had been fit that whole time? Possibly, but I've got my doubts. Certainly, the run of
yeah,
games Yakimakis has had, 12 goals, 11 of them since Kyogo last played. You look at Maida, who's come in and has got, I think, 5 goals. Those two between them have scored 16 goals since Kyogo last played. Kyogo's got 16 this
yeah,
season. So that's what you're looking at. I mean, you're looking at big contributions for these guys. And I would start both of them alongside
yeah.
Jota as my front three. I'd have Maida off the left, Yakimakis up top, and Jota on the right next Sunday.
Yeah, I agree. I think the three of them were brilliant against Ross County. That first half was as fluent and as good as we've been in quite a while. And I think Dyson Maida, like a lot of people were unsure about him at first. And for me, the last few games, I think Livingston and then even Ross County, he's been brilliant.
Yeah.
The energy from the front, it's priceless for the way we want to play. The closing down that he does. Giakoumakis, I think, again showed in the last game against Rangers, he thrives in these kind of games, and they're not used to having a striker like that play against them for quite a while. Because if you look at it with Edouard, it was never that kind of issue they had, and they almost kind of dealt with him in the last couple of games quite comfortably. The game at the start of the season, obviously, Kyogo was playing out wide. So this is a completely different challenge for them, and they didn't really handle it very well at
Mm-hmm.
Parkhead. So I fancy Giakoumakis to really enjoy that battle and thrive in the kind of atmosphere. I think he looks like one of those players who embraces intimidating atmospheres and will enjoy it rather than kind of wilt away. So that's the front three I would go for as well. I think Abad, I know he scored a great goal last night and it's a great option to have again, but for me that's the front three.
How unfair is it that Abad is playing under 21 football, by the way? I know there's
I,
reasons for why Israel have called him up. I think they're in the cusp of qualification, but Abada should be. I mean, Abada for me would probably be in the edge of a Scotland. He'd be in the
yeah,
Scotland squad, I think, if he was Scottish. I mean, probably getting the odd bit of game time. Like, why is he not really playing for Israel? It's a weird one.
he was, wasn't he? I think he was in the campaign earlier. I'm sure he scored as well in one of the games. I can't remember
Yeah,
where it
mainly
was,
been on the
but
bench though. I think certainly
is he?
against
Yeah.
Scotland.
You forget how young he is still. I think he just
Yeah,
turned 20 or so
yeah.
yeah, I think his numbers are incredible for a guy in his debut season coming over here. He's been brilliant. I know again he had a wee patch, a wee spell earlier in the season where when he wasn't contributing much, when he's not scoring, you felt like he wasn't contributing much. But
Yeah.
since the turn of the year, I think his goals, assists, and his just all round game, I think he's came back a more confident player and a bit more polished with his kind of decision making. Plenty still to improve, but obviously, like I say, with his age, for a guy who's 19, he's delivered brilliantly for us.
Yeah, this video's all over the place, by the way, because I've not got a plan or anything. Just before we move on to kind of the midfield and defence of this team we're planning for Ibrox, Player of the Year right now, if you were voting, who would you go for?
Tough one. I think
If
they've
you look
all
at the
had.
whole campaign,
Yeah, that's the thing. They've all had spells where at that stage you thought, right, it's a done deal that they're going to be like Kyogo's the way he started, and then I think Jota had that spell where you're like, this guy's going to blow it away. Um, I think Carter Vickers for me has probably been the most consistent throughout from day one when he's came in the team. I think he's only missed maybe one league game, um, and he's been a solid 8 out of 10 every game. I don't think he's put a foot wrong. He scored a couple of the crucial goal that got the opener at St Mirren at home to St Mirren.
hmm
But it's a shame because we're such a good attacking team to pick someone who's a defender.
it'd be ironic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I just think it's because of the kind of injury spells that both Jota and Kyogo have had. Yeah, Tom Rogic had a spell out. McGregor's been
McGregor's getting
very
a few
consistent. Yeah,
shouts. Ross is saying Cal Mack. I don't know if he's just a
yeah.
fan of ferries or if he wants Cal Mack. I'm not even pronouncing that name, but that's another one for Cal Mack. Alex saying CCV or Cal
Yeah.
Mack.
I think they
I'm
too
going
because
to.
they've probably they've probably been the most consistent and had the most game time, which will put them in the front running. But I think there's still time for someone to come through in the last 6, 7 games and just blow it away.
Karamoka
But
Dembele, is that who you're getting at? Player of the year?
yeah, I thought he did well. What game was it he came on? The Dundee
Dundee
United
United.
away. Yeah,
Yeah.
he showed he's got something to offer. So
My shout, and there's one for Juranovic as well, which is interesting there, just coming in, Kalmar Juranovic, loads of CCV stuff. I'm just ignoring Ryan118 in this video. He's one more daft comment away for getting a block. He's saying Joe Hart
Joe,
for Player of the Year.
Yeah, Joe
It's
Hart's
not a bad
been
shout.
Joe Hart's been one of our most important signings this season, I would say. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. I think right now I'm going CCV just,
Right.
but I think that could it does feel ironic, like you say, we're such a free flowing goal scoring team, but just the fact that they've all had spells out, I feel like he earns it for
Right,
now.
I'm going to be majorly controversial and stir up the pot here, but Kyogo for me. I know he's
Kyogo
missed. I know he's missed a good few months, and it probably hinges on him coming back
coming
and,
back.
and scoring some big goals. As I said, he's got possibly half a dozen, maybe even more games to really start and make an impact between now and the end of the
Yeah,
season. If he scores the big goals that win us the league or even win us a
yeah,
treble, he'll be nailed on. I think when you look at what he's done, as I say, I know he missed 3 months basically, but I still think he'd be nailed on given what he's contributed to the team this year.
yeah,
He's just for me. He's still the star of this team, even though we've got a good
yeah.
few. He's still the kind of one I would look to. And I just think
Joe
when you look at cup final against
Cup final,
Hibs,
yeah.
the impact he's had in Europe, the big goals he scored there, the big goals he scored at the start of the season as well, the number of goals he scored at the start of the season.
Jota as well, though. I think he's been brilliant throughout. I know he had that kind of injury spell, but you look at his contributions in Europe and that spell domestically as well. I think it was just before he got injured. I thought he was looking
Yeah.
incredible. And he's got a big. I think he came onto a game again the last couple that he's back to his best. So it could be another good end to the season for him. So I wouldn't rule him out. I wonder if because he's a
Yeah.
lone player though as well, like there might be a bit of you want to give it to
If you
someone
sign
who's
the contract, we'll give you the award shot. Is that what we're saying? We can do the same with CCV. To be fair,
CCV,
just
aye, true.
just looking at the comments coming in and without actually, counting them up, it seems like CCV is the front runner. There's a shout for Abada. Abada's actually not a bad shout when you
Yeah,
think he's one of the few guys that's kind of been injury free all season and
injury
scored a
free.
lot of big goals as well. Abada, when you
Yeah,
look at
yeah.
him, Rangers, Dundee United
Dundee
last minute.
United.
Europe as well. He scored away to Ferencvaros that effectively won us that
Yeah,
match as well. So he's been a big player for us as well. There's so many options, and I suppose that's a
it's
good
one of the
good
most
sign.
likable. It's one of the most likable group of Celtic players that I can remember in a while as well. Like you're on board fully with this
Yeah,
group, and I think it's because we've all joined the process at the same stage, be it from manager, be it from like what 14 new signings. We're all in it from that kind of first season, and you just feel like you're on this journey with the full squad, and they're all loving it. You can tell how much they're enjoying their time here as well. And for me, this would be one of if we go on and clinch it, it would be in my 33 years one of the most enjoyable title wins. But for me personally,
well, again, before we move on to the rest of the team, let's just revisit that topic then. And why do you think this? Why is this team? Because we've both supported Celtic for a good number of years. I would suggest. Why? Because I feel the same way. Why do you feel this team is so special?
I think the manager firstly, like I think the manager's a big part of it, and then he's bought so well in terms of the team. Like so, even the likes of Joe Hart, I wasn't a massive Joe Hart fan.
Yeah,
When we signed him, I wasn't overly delighted with that one, and he's just proved me so wrong in every way, on and off the pitch. His kind of leadership skills, how he conducts himself, seems like he's a guy who I know people hate using that kind of word or line, gets it, but I do feel like he does. I feel like he realizes the kind of size of the club he's at, and that's coming from a guy who's won titles down south. Um, he just likes a Kyogo, and I feel like that's like for me. Obviously, I kind of grew up around the time of Henrik, so like it's we've had loads of strikers since, but I feel like this guy
hmm
could be a superstar, and we bought him at that
yeah.
similar kind of age, where. you bought him at his peak, and you don't feel like he's one of those that's in a rush to just look at the next move. So he's just very likable. And I just think it's just a collective, the way that from where we've come from. Obviously, I think everything that we had to kind of put up with last season, be it not being at the
That's a big
ground,
part,
and
isn't it?
yeah, the whole shambles that it was, and I just feel like there's a real collectiveness, and it's at the start of the season we all just wanted progress, and we all just wanted to see signs of getting our kind of Celtic back, and the fact that we're now 6 or 7 games away from a potential treble, given the turnaround, given
Mm.
how far we were behind last season, it's up there with, for me, it would be up there with Martin O'Neill's first season, that kind of level of turnaround. Um, we've won brilliant titles in the last 10 years, but you look at the Rodgers team's brilliant seasons, but we weren't up against much.
Hmm.
We weren't up against a good Rangers. This is a good Rangers, as much as it pains me to say it. You see that in Europe, they're a good side. Um, Lucky side, but they're a good side, and if we can turn this around and win the title this year, for me, it's up there.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting to hear your thoughts on that because I've heard so many people say it, and there's always that recency bias. You're always
Yeah,
keen to say, no, this is the best, no, this is the best treble, this will be the best league title. And obviously over time it'll if we do indeed win the league, and you go forward 10 years and look back, that's when you'll be able to tell for sure. But it feels really special this year. It
yeah,
feels like that just from the first day of the season, in fact not even the first day of the season, see from the, I don't know if you were one of the lucky ones to be at the Midtjylland home game when there was seven or
nah,
eight thousand there, but for an hour before kickoff, Ange came out that day, and I think he was doing a trackside interview with radio or TV. And when he walked back along to go in the tunnel, he got this massive ovation for the Celtic
yeah,
support, and he started clapping. And I think that surprised me at the time. I knew we were behind Ange, but at that stage, before a ball had been kicked, there was a lot of pessimism,
hmm,
scepticism about this appointment, a guy that we hadn't really heard of. But there's just been something special from that moment onwards. There's just been a bond between the support
yeah.
and the team and the manager and the management that I don't even know if there was that kind of bond in the Brendan Rodgers days. There might have been because bless him, we had some amazing moments under Brendan Rodgers, but I think it feels like we have a really talented group of players, but also just a really genuine group of
Genuine,
players.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
no really many kind of bad apples in that team you would look
And I
at.
think that again, that comes from Ange. Like, I think when you hear him speak, and I was the same as a lot of Celtic fans when we first announced Ange, or we were linked with him. You know, I think it was more to do with just how apathetic we were towards Celtic at the time, in terms of just how shambolic everything was, rather than a slight on Ange. It was just, we just
Hmm.
thought, what are we doing here? But as soon as I heard him in that first interview, I think he just got everyone's buy-in, and he said it in the Mark Schwarzer interview the other day, that
Hmm.
he felt as soon as, once he goes in the job, he felt he had the Celtic fans' full backing right from
Yeah,
then.
and he did.
He did. I think that's what we're like. We fully bought into him, and we did our research, and we learnt more about him. And like, you've had so many kind of numerous Australian guests, and they've been brilliant to listen to, because these guys know him. These guys have, spent time with him. Obviously, Andy Harper with the book, and just the general kind of media. They know, and now, like you say, they're all saying, "We told you so." And it's
Yeah.
it's great to see, because when you listen to him speak, and he buys players based on how they are as people. He said as much as well. So I think that's why, when you say it's such a good group of players, they're also likable. I think that's because he picks good people as well as good players, and I think he said as much. And that's why there's no big time egos. There's no, like, we've had great players in the last few years as well, but I've never felt that collective bond that there seems to be with this group. I felt there was maybe cliques, and there was, it was just. Whereas with this group, I don't feel like there is. I feel like they're all just there, and they're all, going for that one cause, and I think that stems from the manager.
And being the runners up last year and trying to win this league back, that's a major part in it as well. I mean, that,
Yeah.
see, when you've got a point to prove after last year, and obviously I think another thing is that obviously winning the league means a lot every single year, but I think it means as much as ever this year
Yeah.
because the reward that's on offer in the Champions League, all of that money. I want to get in some of the thoughts on you wonderful people who are giving up your Friday night. I've not read these, so I'll need to kind of go slowly. Um, Ryan McGinley, fan of the channel, member of the channel as well at times. Ange is bought into the club, and we've all bought into Ange. We're so lucky to have him. Um, David simply saying Poste Godlu. Uh, um, Manager of the year, Poste Coglu. I'm ignoring all the Ryan 118's comments because he's just at it tonight. He's obviously had a few wee beers. Alex Robertson making an interesting point. There's been an openness as well with fan media this year.
Yeah.
These players are normal people. That perhaps having an impact as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think you see the difference definitely with Ange as well, that when he speaks to the fan media, he's
Yeah.
got a much more relaxed, and the questions are much more engaging, and he likes talking about football, and I feel like a lot of the fan media questions are more tactical, or actual decent questions rather than your headline grabbers from the mainstream media. So I definitely think that has helped, and I feel like that's helped fans get on board as well. Like you say, there's better communication, there's better dialogue, which always helps. I seen the video the other day with obviously the Celtic women's player as well, and
Hmm.
just stuff like that. I just feel like as a club we're doing a lot more. Um, we're even off the field. Like I know we've got like player liaison officers, Andrew's mentioned as well now, who have come in, and that's part of helping all these kind of new players settle in. And I think that's an important factor as well. Small things like that can really make a difference. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's just a lot to look forward to, and a lot to get excited about, and a massive end to the season to come. The other thing as well, it makes it more special. I think I've kind of in my time, I think we've had about five titles which have gone to the wire, and unfortunately, I think I've only witnessed one of them where we've won. I was at Tannadice the day
Oh,
we won 3 in a row under Gordon Strachan. So I think the other four that have gone to the wire have gone the other way. But there's something always more special about when you win it. So I think we're due one. I think we're due one that goes to the wire. Hopefully before it even gets to the final day. But I think that just makes it even all the more, where every single game has so much riding on it, and the nerves are there, the excitement's there, and it's a special time, and it's part of the season, I think.
I was actually just thinking earlier today. Imagine that day when you wake up and Celtic can win the league that day. Like
Yeah,
imagine, regardless of what's happening across the city, if Celtic win today, we'll have won this league. It would just be an incredible feeling. And the thing is, as you say, we're in a strong position here. You just don't want
yeah.
to get too ahead of yourself because there's still, a lot of hard work to
Oh, yeah.
do. So much hard work. Rangers, as we keep saying, are a good side and it's going to be difficult. But just the prospect of this team, with that trophy is just it's what keeps me alive at the moment. That sounded really severe. It's what keeps me kind of going at the moment and happy at the moment, among other things, of course. Midfield wise
Oh,
for
midfield, yeah.
Sunday, if we go back to that, what are you thinking?
So I hear obviously that Tom Brogic could be a doubt. So I think I was probably going to be on picking O'Reilly anyway. I would have went O'Reilly, Hattati, and McGregor,
Same
and
as last time.
same as last time, yeah. And I think given the fact that Tom won't have trained this week and has a potential injury niggle, so therefore I think that cements it for me. That would be the three. I think O'Reilly. I know you're a big fan. I just think, yeah, he's been coming off the bench the last few games, and he was brilliant again against Ross County. I think it's his time to get a start in this one. Hattati, I thought was back to himself at the
Hmm.
weekend there as well. So yeah,
He's
that's the
good.
three for me. That's the three for me.
The only thing with Hatati is it sounds like he's going to play on Tuesday lunchtime, I think our time for Japan. I think they're
Japan.
playing Vietnam, I want to say. It's a bit of obviously a dead rubber for them now. They
Yeah,
can still win the group, but it doesn't really matter. They've qualified. So it seems like he might get his chance. I think they've released a couple of players. A guy, I think Endo, who plays for Stuttgart, who's a midfielder. So it seems like Hatati might get his chance.
Mike.
Obviously, it's great for him and it's well deserved for the effort he's put in and what he's achieved with us so far and previously. But from a selfish point of view, you wouldn't be too unhappy if he's maybe on the bench, and even if he only gets 20
Yeah,
minutes. I suppose the positive thing is that it's 5 days ahead of the derby.
I wouldn't rule out Ange putting in Beaton as well. I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility. I think he might. think he's a player who knows the fixture well, knows the atmosphere, and has that kind of experience. He's brought him in before for certain games. Again, the added height as well, which he might go
Mm.
for. So I think McGregor's a stick on. I think if Tom doesn't train in the build up to it, I think he might go with O'Reilly, and then, like you say, it depends on how Hatate comes back from international duty. But yeah, Beaton's actually a shout as well that might get put in there. I would rather Hatate just for that kind of
Mhm.
energy that I think we'll need in there. But that's the thing. There's not a team that he could pick where I would be like, oh, what's going on there? I don't feel like there's every option I feel like can be justified now.
And he's also
Um,
under trust.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I think the Livingston game was one where people probably thought, what's he doing?
Mm.
Beaton, Rogic, and I think it was McGregor, and look how that turned out. So he's definitely, I feel like you say, earned that trust where whatever decision he makes, you're going to be like, right, okay, that makes sense, so that could work. So, my preferred three would still be though Hatate, McGregor, and O'Reilly.
Yeah,
Who
I think McGregor playing, deepest is quite important because they're, I think, going to try and press us in, especially with the
Yeah,
atmosphere. And I
they
just
will.
think McGregor's so much better at taking the ball and moving it on, whereas Beaton can kind of make the odd mistake. I'm getting called out here for praising Rangers, which is obviously something I should never do again. Hamish, how can you say they're playing well when they've struggled every game and late winners, penalties? Guaranteed they're rubbish. They struggled against Dundee.
I don't
Agreed
think they're.
totally.
Yeah, I don't think they're playing well. I watched a bit of their game against Dundee. I watched a bit of their game against Belgrade. Both games actually they weren't very good. They're not playing well, but they're getting the results at the moment. But yeah, I don't think we can go into it complacent and think, right, I think we need to expect them. We need to expect the Rangers that came against Dortmund. I think that's the one we need to
Mm.
expect and be prepared for that and have a plan accordingly.
But the thing is, and this will sound ridiculous because Dortmund, I think we'd all agree, are a better team than Celtic and have better players. But I think even if Rangers play as well as they did against Dortmund, I think it's not, out with the realms of possibility Celtic can come away with a result. I think we're that good. I honestly think
Yeah,
Rangers at their best might even struggle to beat us. It's not just a
yeah.
case of if Rangers are at their Dortmund level, they'll automatically beat us. I,
And
I think Celtic are a better team.
yeah, and Dortmund, to be honest, watching that didn't weren't playing at their best, or look half
Oh, he's going
interested
for
to
it
be.
now. You'll
No,
be you'll be
uh,
you'll be in TikTok in 2 hours,
so
mate.
I do agree. I think a Rangers fully firing and a Celtic fully firing, I would still fancy us to come out on top. Um, and I genuinely think if we can go like through the first 20 minutes or so, quieting the crowd down, they're going to get on their backs. They know how big a game this is for them, and I think yeah, if we can get that first goal like you mentioned earlier, ah, yeah, I'm getting more and more confident the more I think about it.
I'm getting more and more excited, and I
I
just want
know,
the
I know.
next week to fly. And it should I think from about Tuesday onwards, it
Yeah,
should get quite exciting because we'll have previewing and stuff to do, and there'll be press conferences coming up. It's going to be massive. Defence, I think, and keeper kind of picks itself, doesn't it? And hopefully there's no worries with injuries.
yeah, I think so. Definitely Taylor, Starfelt, CCV, and Juranovic. I'm a big fan of Anthony Ralston. I genuinely think anytime he comes in, he's a solid, reliable option. Almost offers something different as well from Juranovic. But yeah, for me, that back four and goalkeeper picks itself, and we'll have a strong bench, barring any injuries as
Yeah,
well. So which we've not really had. Don't even think we had a strong bench in that Celtic Park game because we were missing a
no,
few
we
from
didn't.
international.
Yeah,
So
Ben Doak came on as a sub, didn't
Ben,
he?
yeah. So we're in a we're in a very strong position. Let's just, like you say, fingers crossed, no injuries. But
Hmm.
yeah, definitely, I'm quietly confident for it. It's a big one, but like you said, I think we're in the strong position where we don't have to win that game, and that's a nice position to be in going into the running.
Indeed, right. I think we'll leave it there. Hopefully, we've managed to fill 35 minutes of your rather dull lives if you're watching us on a Friday night. And I know what it's like. We're all feeling it. Just that kind of that want for a bit of chat about Celtic, and hopefully we've been able to kind of satisfy that for a wee while. Obviously, far more coming in the channel over the next week or so. We're kind of having a wee weekend off. I'm away to Dublin tomorrow. We'll have a video coming out. It's a Q&A I recorded earlier this week. That'll be tomorrow. No video on Sunday, but we're back on Monday when we'll start a big week for Celtic. We've got Scott McDonald on next week, hoping to have another former Celtic player on as well early on in the week. We'll have a big preview for the Rangers game. I think we're going to do a live show next Friday possibly as well. Obviously all the reaction to next Sunday as well. So it's going to get very exciting. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I genuinely do mean it. Thanks everyone who's watching after the event as well. Asim, thanks for your time. Go and enjoy
No problem.
your Friday night, and
Will do.
we'll speak to you very soon. Take care everyone.